Welcome to Blue Monday from the Blue Room with me, Les, and Dave. On this week's show, we're going to look back at yesterday's disappointing 3-0 defeat to Spurs. Very disappointing, especially the two identical set-piece goals we conceded in the first half effectively killed off the game, even though we did have a lot of decent chances ourselves. Is Everton's summer recruitment and Moyes' ability to change games lacking after that defeat? I think it is, but we'll get into that in a bit. As ever, Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Invisible Wind Factory. First venue on the right as you head to the new ground from town, just on the corner of Regent Street and Regent Road. Dave, me and you were on stage at the Wind Factory yesterday. A little bit nerve-wracking in front of a packed venue, wasn't it? We just sort of read out the teams and had a little chat with Paul from Falcon Blues TV about the game. You two optimistically said it'd be 4-1. I said it'd be 3-3.
Didn't say it, though.
What?
Didn't say it was 2.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a very good point. But it got relatively well received. We got a gentle ripple of applause. No one heckled. So
I mean, me and you were treated like Robson and Jerome, weren't we? When we got on there, just expected to start singing. But it was good, and it was good the reaction we had in terms of like a few people have been in touch saying they enjoyed it. And you need to emphasise as well, get down there, and if you do see us or you want to have a talk about the game or whatever, then more than happy to do that. I've said that like with a pair of celebrities, but I don't mean to sound that way. But you know, when we're in there, like it's boss anyway. We love it in there, and obviously it's before the game, and so everyone's in a more positive mood than they certainly finished it with. And it's massive as well, isn't it? So it's easy to bevy. And yeah, there's a good feeling, good atmosphere in there before you get to the stadium.
Yeah, it's sound. And they have highlights of all games on the big screen. So I think it was 1991 game against Tottenham. It was on yesterday. Two absolutely belting kits in that game, by the way. But yeah, like Dave said, if you're down there and you want to get involved, like get on the stage and talk about the game or whatever, just let us know. It'd be sound because we're going to be back before the Fulham game on the 8th. In the meantime, next Sunday, we'll see the return of roller disco at the Wind Factory, where you can get the kids some exercise while you sit off and have a pint while the kids go on the roller disco. And if you're booking your Works Christmas do, don't forget the 50% off venue hire. Sunday to Thursday bookings in December. Still limited availability left. All details on invisiblewindfactory.com or send them a DM if you want to chat. Right, Dave? Very frustrating game yesterday. I didn't think we played that badly, and I've watched the highlights back, and that kind of confirmed to me that we didn't really play that badly. I think for a lot of the second half, I think we were pretty much camped in their half, it felt like. But to concede 2 identical goals from the corners, that was pretty unforgivable. I think the first one was poor defending, and then the second one was poor from Pickford. I think he got shoved off too easily, but just really, really poor goals, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. I mean, to concede like that when I think it's one of the prides I think that the club have had, David Moyes has had, and our centre backs have been the lack of set pieces that we've conceded from. And don't get me wrong, I think I said to you, I think with a few minutes left, every single corner from them was pinpoint. And you know, you'd have to admit when a player plays well, it was whipped into the box and in a perfect position for them to go and attack it. But nonetheless, that means we should still be defending that. More players in the box than them. I know Pickford isn't a tall goalkeeper, but when you've got, I mean, Beto's there as well. You've got Keane. For the fact of Mickey, whatever his name is, nodded 2 in. That's criminal. First one, yeah. It's poor defending anyway to have the ball even reach his head. The second one, no, when it happens twice, and it's a similar sort of thing that happens, that's when it's really, really bad. And that's when you know if you do that, you deserve to go 1-0 down if you're allowing them to get a free header there. But yeah, I mean, I feel those that were conceded there. They put your shoulders down straight away when you go and do that. There's a lack of confidence when you've got to play the ball out from the back. I know we'll go into the sort of the deeper analysis of the game right now. But yeah, I mean, they were just sucker punched, weren't they, as well when they happen as well at what stage? Because they seemed, like you said there, I thought we were okay. I thought there was a decent tempo going about how we were doing things. I think to sort of the alternate thing that I wanted to refer to a little bit as well is it's becoming so predictable with Grealish now. it's going to be, he's become unpredictable. That's the worst game he's had for us yesterday, Les. And part of that's due to the fact he always gets the ball with his back of 2 or 3 players in front of him. And the second part is, I think the lad tries to do something himself that doesn't have to be that complicated. More to the point, I'd love him to just put it onto his right and have a go at goal. I think somebody, I'm not sure who it was.
No one was shooting. It's like we're trying to either walk it in or play a perfect pass or get a cross in instead of just getting in the box and having a dig. No one's doing that.
Yeah, it was. He's exactly like that, and I think I don't know if you can you go and teach a player that when he's at the age of 29? Probably not. But then what's the alternative? Is what I'd say. What else are we doing here? Just passing across their 18-yard box. I mean, they must love that. Yeah. When you've got an attacking team with all your players behind them on the edge of your box and you're deep, so they can't break through in any way. Just man-to-man defending, simple as that. Then they must be loving that. They can sit there they can just sit there watching it all night, all day, night long, and you're not going to concede a goal.
It does show what happens as well when you do have a shot. So on the rare occasion that we did, James Garner had that shot in the first half, where I think it was probably just sneaking wide, but the keeper had to make sure. Made a good save. Obviously, we scored from the corner, get to the slide. We'll go into that in a minute. But then again, and I had a shot, sort of snapshot in the second half, which took a deflection. Keeper made a great save again. So, when we are having shots and they're going on target, the keeper's got to do something. And I could bounce anywhere then, but we're just not taking enough chances. Just quickly to go back to the goals we conceded, though, I think Liam made a good point on post-match last night that our zonal defending was very passive and we let Spurs bully us and get everyone in the 6-yard box. So we let Spurs compact it. Instead of us moving out to something or trying to drag players away or do something different, we all just stood in the 6-yard box, which does make it incredibly difficult for a goalkeeper anyway. But you're also running the risk then, if the corner is good, like it was, it just takes one nick off someone's head and it's going in. There's not much. If someone gets a header in the 6-yard box, there's rarely anything a keeper can do. So it just felt a very dangerous way to play and a bit stupid to me. Just the whole team seemed very imbalanced, doesn't it? And like you said, last last couple of seasons, our defence has been our strong point, but it doesn't look particularly functional anymore, does it?
No, it doesn't, and I think I've banged on maybe they overly criticised Tarkowski, but I do look at them now. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? We were talking about O'Brien and that right back test, if you like, or period should have run its course by him. Tarkowski, I've said I wouldn't have him as the captain, and I probably do stick by that. Though I don't think he was particularly poor, but maybe you say he was there because of the goals we conceded from set pieces, and Keane there as well. And I think there with Pickford, he's not the tallest of goalkeepers. And I'm not saying you'd have to protect him, but when a cross is coming in there, you've got somebody on your front post. Old fashioned, isn't it now when you think about it? But when you've got somebody leaning in the front post and someone at the back post, and then everyone else that's piling up there, you throw your tallest players next to him, like Beto. Yeah. Even though he's absolutely useless, at least he's got a big head, and he's tall, and the ball can hit him. That's as basic as it gets from those.
It can't seem to hit him in the opposition box, though, can it?
Well, it can. It just doesn't go. It just seems like he's defending for them when it does. But I agree there with what Liam said. I also agree in terms of when they coming out. We had more possession than them in that game, which I think that's like quite a telling stat. And I think it's quite ironic, Les, because we didn't seem to know what to do with having the extra ball, more than they did, because we're just not used to it. Particularly against the side that's probably going to be in contention for Europa League, Champions League, whatever it's going to be, and you have more possession than them. You've got to do something a lot more with the ball. And I know we'll go on to this, but you look at some of the players and how poor they were. Then that's the reason why when you've got that much. And maybe that's I would presume or assume that it was Thomas Frank's intention there to think, well, do you know what, we can break from this. We've got players, we've got pace, we're able to counter attack. suppose like the crux of the problem came that they scored 2 goals against us, which were meant to be better than everybody else at.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because we have been good historically last few seasons on set pieces, defending and attacking. So yeah, to go 2-0 down right on the stroke of half time to another identical corner was frustrating. But do you think, well, it could have changed the game. It probably would have changed the game had Jake O'Brien's goal been allowed. I was furious in the ground because I was thinking, how can he be offside from a corner? What's going on there? But I've watched it back and I thought it was just poor play from Grealish and Ndiaye. They both go and stand either side of the goalkeeper. I can see they probably could have given a foul on the keeper because I think one of them definitely, I think Ndiaye maybe nudged into him. He got a hand to it. I don't think he would have saved it anyway because it was a great header. But I just think it was awful play from Grealish and Ndiaye to go and stand either side of the keeper like that. I don't know what they were thinking of doing. If they were trying to put him off, you've at least got to stay on side when you do it. Just really poor. But I think that would have got the crowd back up, would have got us in the ascendancy again there, and I think it would have been a different game. But yeah, what did you make of it? Because on post-match, everyone was like giving the referee loads, saying, how can you be offside from a corner, which I agreed with at the time, and I appreciate no one on post-match had seen it back. But having watched it back, I think it was the right decision, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, people will probably be fuming with us saying that Pawson's made the right decision in any sort of context in that game because he was absolutely he was an embarrassment to referee. And to be honest with you, you think how low you've got to go to be called that these days. When you think of the weekend there, well, all the Liverpool fans kicking off at when Van Dijk conceded that penalty against Brentford, they were seething about that. To a step even lower than that, because that wasn't a pen for me. You go to this now and you think, no one could possibly be as poor as that ref was, and then lo and behold, Pawson. They probably have a bet on it, to be honest with you. But yeah, with that, I mean, I think we're probably in the minority to say that you could see why it was disallowed. The length of time, given what he did afterwards, they just added to the narrative that he was absolutely woeful as a referee. I agree with you there. I think you've got 2 experienced players who know that these days in particular, maybe you get away with that in even a couple of seasons gone by. You get away with where they were. I get that because the old fashioned thing to say is I can stand where I want. It doesn't matter where I am. I stand, but it's when they make contact with the keeper that is when the decision they've given the decision to be made. And I said to you the thing to take from that is I said to you immediately after that was disallowed, this sounds like Goodison now. And it was one of the first times, or probably the first time this season, that the atmosphere was so good. It's just a shame it took the referee fucking up for us to get like, I mean, you can hear my voice, and I know I've got a cold, but you can hear my voice now screaming and booing and everything. And when a referee goes and does what he did in that game there, so many different occasions, how he never give a yellow card for however long it was to one of their players was remarkable. And he was a joke. He was an absolute disgrace there. But in our defence as fans, there that atmosphere when the old-fashioned Goodison thing where your back's against the wall, you've received a load of incorrect decisions given against you. That's when people become very feral, and that starts to happen there. So when if you're going to take a positive out of ever conceding a goal, that's probably it.
But I think in that moment as well, it's on the team then to take the game to them, and I don't think they took advantage of it, did they? Because everyone was going mad, and that atmosphere was rising. And the team just never picked up on that momentum, and it just sort of went back to, I don't know, just being quite passive. Like you said on the stats, we're probably in the ascendancy on most metrics. 11 shots, 3 on target. They had 6 and 4 on target. Scored 3, obviously. Possession 53 to their 47. 92% pass accuracy, which is really, really high. 9 corners to their 8. It's it was a very, very even game. But again, and I think we don't want to keep repeating ourselves, but I think we said last week that, looking at the summer recruitment, and there are some shortcomings there. Now, we had, £80 million worth of players on the bench yesterday. Paddy said on a byline that Moyes has final sign-off on the players. So if we spent the best part of 80 million on 3 players who he doesn't see fit to start or even get much game time, I mean, what's going on there? Alcaraz gets 5 minutes at the end, which is terrible when you look like Dewsbury Hall had a terrible game yesterday, and Alcaraz still couldn't get on in his favourite position. And if you throw him into the transfer kitties for the summer as well, that's probably what, 95 million that was on the bench. He barely got used. Diblin, what was the point of him if he's not going to get on the pitch? There's a lot of shortcomings in that summer transfer window, which a lot of us were relatively happy with at the time because it looked like quite a progressive window. We plugged a lot of gaps in the squad, but I think you can see now there's been a big, massive hole in signing players who are ready to play. That's on Moyes, but also he's just not using the squad to its full capability. He's not changing things. Like, he's not changing the shape of the team. When a sub comes on, it's the same sub. Like, to be honest, Oceangate make better subs than David Moyes. It's just been really bad, hasn't it? I had to get that in.
No, it's not mailbag. Excuse me. There's a lot to unpack with all this now, I think, because if you look on my Twitter, I'd say there's like an increasing number of fans who won't rid of David Moyes there, but I don't know whether because I'm getting old, because normally I'd probably be shouting that myself, but I just don't see the benefit of doing it 9 games in. And that's what taking away the context that he probably deserves in anyway. Given I've probably started not believing that these days, that managers deserve things because he did well in previous occasions. It should be about the here and now. The here and now isn't as bad as having to go and do what Nottingham Forest have done with the basket case of an owner. And I don't think our owners are like that anyway. I think it'd be a much more considerable process before they start thinking and looking further afield than David Moyes is the Everton manager. But I want to get into that about the subs in a second there, because I think that has always been an issue with whoever's Everton manager, basically. Not just David Moyes. You remember doing the same with Dyson. I remember doing the same when Moyes was first there, and he'd have Rooney on the bench. You're screaming to get Rooney on back in the day then. But what I do want to talk about here is an old-fashioned, very, very old-fashioned, maybe since football ever started, players' fault, managers' fault. Many of our players were poor. Many of them, most of them were poor. Can Moyes be legislated for that? Well, no, he can't. But where he is, part of that is how he changes that system. And it does feel very one-dimensional with these lads. For instance, getting the Grealish's poorest game for us. There's always a mitigating circumstance with him, because I think if you're any opposition, he's the first player on a team sheet you look at and you think, do you know what, he's going to play there. We can set up against him. You two, you're going to close him down when he's got the ball. And then that makes it increasingly difficult for him to do what he can. By and large, he has been able to solve that. But this league, I've said a couple of times, this league finds you out. There may be some awful teams in this Premier League, but even then, they will think your best player. It's not rocket science. We're gonna close him down as soon as possible. And Dewsbury Hall, you mentioned there too. Just a gay as well. I mean, he was well off the pace. It looked like that to me. And Dye was the only one who stuck out. I mean, he's often our best player, isn't he? But he stuck out like a sore thumb in terms of, like, he looked like a Premier League player and the rest looked like Championship ones.
The only bit of creativity was coming through him, wasn't it?
And I felt sorry for him, Les. I felt sorry for him because he's Everton won't have him this time next year, I don't think. Certainly on the current the current way we are right now. Clubs will come in for him. Let's just be honest about that. Clubs will try and buy him there. And he's not an Evertonian as good as the lad he looks. He's not a blue. If a team comes in who wants to play Champions League football, then he's going to want to go. That's just the way things work these days. You need to accept that. But then, I mean, the rest of them there, player wise, can Moyes make an impact? Well, yes, he can. And this is where the subs come in. When he goes and does this and waits that long to put a sub to change the subs, Beto come back out after half time, which I was particularly didn't think that was going to happen, or it shouldn't have happened, because now we're at a stage with those two strikers that we've got that they don't look any good. Barry, there's circumstances around that there where you think, well, he hasn't really been given a chance. He's coming to a new league, he's a young player. The sort of stereotypical stuff you probably refer to, new signings coming to the Premier League. But then if Beto's not any good and that other lads is not any good, which one just sort of point towards, and it's the new signing. He should be playing. He should be starting games. He came on at one point randomly as well. Did the ridiculous piece of skill. And I was looking at him, go on, lads. You looked at it and you think, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
And it, so I think, look, if we're not changing things, and Moyes won't, as much as I think a lot of us, many Blues, every podcast I listen to, every sort of YouTube channel I've watched, have said now it's time to try something else there, with maybe putting an Alcaraz there, putting Grealish there, false nines, all of that sort of rhetoric you got from the conventional sides back in the day when Barcelona made it popular. I'd be very up for that now, because when you're getting the results we've started getting in this poor run of form, you have to make changes. We've said that since David Moyes has been Everton's manager since 2002, although it wasn't as obvious then. He is so stubborn, but that's what Everton are. Everton are a stubborn football club. No manager we've had has been pragmatic. None of them. In a general, I'm talking about here. Maybe
Ancelotti. As in making the best of what they've got, kind of thing. So I think he was when he came in last season, wasn't he? I think one of the problems for me, apart from like there seems to be a big imbalance at the back now. Like we keep saying this every week with Jake O'Brien at right back, and I think you said again yesterday that that experiment probably needs to come to an end now. But apart from that imbalance, there seems to be a lack of trust within the squad. And I'm talking about Moyes clearly doesn't trust the new signings because he's not playing them. He doesn't trust Alcaraz because he never plays him. He trusts the same set of players, and it's been found out now, and it's just not working. So that needs to change. But on the pitch as well, I think there's a lack of trust. You talk about Jack Grealish keeping hold of the ball too long. He doesn't trust the left back, clearly. I know Michalenko's not a great player, but you've got to trust the players around you. I don't care like what level you're playing at. Even if you're miles better, you can't do everything yourself. So I don't think he trusts him. There's no trust with Beto up front, I think, from Ndai and Grealish, because he's not getting the ball played through to them. Again, like last season when Moyes was getting the best out of this squad of players, it was a lot of Alcaraz through to Beto, or that through ball to Beto. That's not getting done at all now. So I think this lack of trust for me is becoming a bit of a concern, because that creates a very dysfunctional team. And it can fall apart quite quickly. Now, I mentioned yesterday, for anyone who's at the Win Factory and watched us, that basically this won't define our season, this game, but it will define sort of where we're going to sit in the league. And I think now you can safely say we're going to be bottom half. I don't think we'll look it up anymore. Don't want to be too pessimistic on that, because it's not been a bad start. But I think there's enough signs now to say, we're probably up a mid-table at best. But it can quickly fall apart if the players don't trust each other, because that breaks up any sort of momentum you've got on the pitch. Do you agree with that, or do you think?
No, completely disagree. And it's not often we disagree. We debate normally, but I massively disagree with you there, because I think there's plenty up for grabs. And again, I'll just reiterate, and I've said I sound like a broken record. 9 games in, I don't think we're in a position, firstly, to look at the manager's future, and secondly, to think we are ineligible or can't finish in that top half. I know you're not saying we can't finish there, but you're saying it looks likely that we won't. Look at that table.
Oh, no.
Look at that table there. We're 7 points off. What is it? Third, second, whatever it is.
We are, but there's no... The squad sort of lost any early season momentum.
Les,
but it's going to need changes, isn't it? It's going to take changes from the manager, and I can't see him doing it.
And that's a fair point. But just to put it on what you said there, how many times under Moyes, and people have had debates about this, and I didn't think I'd be in a position ever to defend them as much as I have here. More is what I'm talking about, is what the timing of this, when people are sort of going into those knee-jerk reactions. Now, I understand that where I've had the second thought about this since I put this about, I think it's ridiculous, is when you think about like the opportunity we feel like we've had, new stadium, spending so much on players, there becomes like there's an expectation that we haven't quite had for several years now, and you're thinking, relegations, points, all that stuff is over. Now's the time when Everton can sort of put the foot down, new owners, we've got plenty of money to spend. Yet we haven't gone and done that yet. And that's where I reiterate, 9 games. you're getting into Nottingham Forest territory if you go and sack a manager right now.
I'm not saying sack the manager.
I know you're not, but I'm saying that's what it often leads to. Well, you can see right now that's what it has led to from many, which I think is absolutely crazy myself. Like, each to their own. But what a few people said to me is, if you go and lose at Sunderland, every chance of that, given the fact that the in team in the league, as bizarre as it is, and then you've got Fulham at home, which you would then think, if they lose that, do you start looking at Moyes then? What happens then is, if we go and lose at Sunderland, it increases fold by fold by fold. People will be like, "Nah, you've got to look elsewhere. We've got all these players, we're not playing them well." But then, conversely, people will say, "Well, the players aren't good enough." So, which is it? What message are you trying to give when you say players aren't good enough? We've got whoever on the bench doesn't get a game, whoever's on the pitch aren't good enough, and the manager isn't getting the best out of them. You need to pick a horse. You can't. I understand that things are linked with, like, maybe what's going on in training, maybe there's the style of play that they've got, maybe he's not getting the best out of the players for where they should be playing when they're on the pitch. For instance, you mentioned there about Grealish. I thought it was Dewsbury Hall's worst game for us as well. But definitely, I think the mitigating circumstance there was, it seemed to be him who had to move over to the left towards him because he didn't trust the left back in Michalenko. So when you mention that lack of balance, I think that's spot on, because you've got so many different places on that side where you think, you know what, it looks solid, it looks structured, you write it on paper, it looks ideal. But you don't have to dig too deep for this, do you, to see that there's a lot of things that are sort of not quite clicking and aren't quite together. So yeah, I mean that's where he earns his money as a manager, to go and sort that out. Where the most criticism is, and where I do agree with people, is the substitutions are quite embarrassing. And I don't know, I mean, he must be having a competition with Sean Dyche, because sadly, since Sean Dyche was there, really quite pathetically, I was always add up what the minute and second that he decided to bring a substitute on the mean number, and it was around 78 minutes when he brought a player on. Moyes isn't too dissimilar to that. Alcaraz coming on the 86th minute was just like a slap in the face to us all, wasn't it? Really, you're 2-0 down. Why are you doing this now? Why aren't you doing it? Like, me and you sat next to each other, aren't we? And looking at there, and your dad sitting next to us as well, and your lads behind us, and we're like, he's got to make a sub now, 65. Got to make a sub now, 70. Nothing happening there. Spurs, who were cruising, make subs.
Yeah.
They make subs because, as far as Thomas Frank is concerned, the game's over. He isn't going to do anything else, really. And most of the points, he's making like-for-like changes. He's putting on players that aren't going to be worse than the ones that they are replacing.
Yeah.
Whereas us, there's such a dramatic feeling about each sub we make, and that's on Moyes. Because when we're sat there screaming, make a sub, there has to be some sort of positive impact as to the reason why he's taken so long to make that change.
Yeah.
And that's where I understand, and that's where I get that the level of criticism is going towards Moyes, because he deserves that. Undoubtedly deserves that. Because people are thinking to me, "Oh, you're up his arse, Dave. You've done this, you've done that." No, I'm not that. I'm trying to look with a little bit more perspective here of what he has available. Is he getting the best out of players? Firstly, no. Is he making the right changes? No. Is he setting up the team correctly? No. People might record that 10 seconds I've just said there and say, "Well, why don't you want him out as well?" But I just feel as if you can't dig down the history of Moyes and what he was like in terms of being a very stubborn manager when he was at Everton in the first term, to say, well, he's going to revert to type and do that all the time. I think you know him a little bit more credit than that. That said, you look at the games we haven't won or taken points. You think Villa, you think West Ham. They're games where we have dropped points, but somebody else put things. And this is a massive mess, isn't it, at the moment, in terms of the various directions you can point in, whether you think it's fine or whether it's not. Who have we played so far? Spurs, Liverpool, City. Who else we played that's up there? Is anyone else up there?
No, I think they're yeah.
But you would include that. Maybe you're scraping the balance to include them. But a third of our games so far have been against sides that Everton aren't competing with. Maybe you can throw Spurs in there because they had the dreadful last season aside from winning the Europa League. But they're in a position now with a brand new manager who's had them really, really flying from the start. 3 matches that we've lost there. You're expecting anything from Liverpool? You expecting anything from City?
But again, no, the Liverpool result, that's really annoying me now as well.
What a bit. Sorry, Les.
They were there to be got at, and that was on the manager. That he played his typical cautious approach at Anfield in that first half, and they scored 2 against us. Now, that's my issue here. This team is plenty good enough to finish mid-table. There's enough in that team to finish mid-table. What the manager's doing at the minute, he's not using the squad enough. The players aren't trusting each other enough, and he's not doing enough with the players he's got. The best thing he did last season when he came in was got the best out of the squad that was there. He'd done stuff that Sean Dyche couldn't get out of that squad. He got stuff out of Beto that no one before or since has been able to get out of Beto. That was what he did really well. He seems to have ripped that up this season. He's got these players in, and he just puts what he considers, and probably are technically the best players we've got, chuck them all on the pitch and see what happens. But they're not playing to anyone's strengths, and they don't seem to trust each other. That's my issue with it, and that's what he needs to change. It's completely in his hands to do it as well.
I think that's a really good point there. What I would say is, I often, when obviously a lot younger, when we actually were battling for Champions League places and getting Europa League spots year after year, or every other year, whatever it worked out as, I used to think, you know what? Imagine how good we'd be if David Moyes had money to spend. We'd be absolutely brilliant. That was the sliding doors moment after we got in the top 4. If we had a load of money to spend, that's Everton going right up to the next tier and being able to compete at the higher level of competitions. Now, ironically, we get to this stage and he's had the money there, hasn't he, already? And then it turns out that they've been a bit of a damn squib so far. But I just keep reiterating, I can't get that number out of me. 9 games, Les. What you put it in. Look, you look at that table. These are the things that I'm saying that go in his favour, and I sound like I'm massively trying to defend everything he's done. I'm just stating facts there. That 9 games in, and you're that close in the league. There, we go and win it. So you take 6 points from the next 2. Everton, they're in contention for Europa League. Everton probably move up to 8th, 7th, something like that. The way the league is right now, you need to look until, I don't know, Christmas, New Year, when you're thinking, do you know what? If Everton are anywhere near a relegation fight, and I'm talking about within 6 points or less, then I'd start looking at it and thinking, after I'm saying halfway through the season, I'm thinking, do you know what? The expectations, you're nowhere near going to reach them because we're looking for a top half finish. I think people have started changing their minds as well, thinking that, well, do you know what? Minimum we should be finishing in Europe because it's down to 8th that you get these days, or minimum we should be finishing the top half of the Premier League. And I understand that your expectations subliminally get lower and lower as you don't get in as many points as you think you should. But the question I put to you and everybody else who's listening, what do you think would be our level par scoring right now in terms of points?
In terms of points. Yeah,
and that's a twofold question. One is based on the opposition we've had, and the other is based on the games themselves and how they've gone. So, in the top of my mind is we've dropped points against West Ham. Yeah. We dropped points against Aston Villa. They're probably the 2 that I look at and think that's where we probably should have got an extra 4 that we're on now. That you put it up to 15, that puts you in the top half of the table. That, in fact, that puts you 3 or 4 points behind a top 4 position right now. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you take that into account, look, I'm not going into. Sounds like I'm going right down into all sorts of different maths here, but in my mind, simply put, I think we should have beat West Ham and we should have beat Aston Villa in those games. Moyes impact, dodgy issues, subs, problems, You don't go and win those games. Yesterday's the first time we've lost a home game. Yesterday's probably the best side we've played that's come to the new stadium so far. Okay, put that to one side, and then you look at what we've actually done in games. What it be? What number you think we should be on? And we're on 11 points right now, which isn't great, but a win puts you in the top half.
Yeah,
I just feel like people need to calm down a little bit, and I can't believe it's me saying that when it's normally me with a knee straight in there, 2-footed, saying get rid. You need to do all this. You need to do all that. what you've spoken about in terms of the issues that there is based on his selection. It's based on the structure of that side, things that need to change. Will he change them? We all know that the answer is no, he won't. We'll, I'd imagine, still start with that same 11 when we go to Sunderland, and it takes a hell of a lot more than this right now for David Moyes to make a change. Now, this is where it's interesting in that we've got new owners. What is their thought behind all this? Because they've been quiet as a mouse since they've owned us. They probably look at what goes on at Forest and think, yeah, I'm never going to speak in my life about my football. But then, do you understand what I mean? There's so many different things, and it's so up in the air with stuff that I'm not willing to make a knee-jerk reaction on this. Frustration aside, I was fuming. I was absolutely fuming. Nonetheless, having to walk over the mile back to my car with half a leg left because my calf's injured from playing footy and it was pissing down, I was freezing, and now I've got a cold. I was just fuming as everybody else there, as much as when Richarlison came on and people clapped. I was booing people who did that. I'll admit
you were fuming at that.
I was booing Richarlison. I was booing everyone who clapped, and I told them to get out. But yeah, in a long way around there, there are too many changeable things to start considering the.
Yeah. I agree. It's completely in his hands, but he needs to go back to doing what he did well last season and looking at the group of players and looking at a style of play that suits them all. Doesn't just suit Jack Grealish, doesn't just suit Illiman and Dye, suits absolutely everyone. Because as you saw yesterday, Grealish wasn't in the game, and the only creative outlet we had was in Dye. That was it. And we can't go on like that, especially when you do have creative players on the bench. Derailing, not seen enough of him, but in the one sort of Premier League season he did have, he came on really well because there was a lot of interest in him. So he's obviously got something. Alcaraz the same, was really good back end of last season. Looked like he was maybe going to be a key player, hasn't been. So it is all on the manager, and I think it's a fair point that we probably are where we would expect to be. 11.9 games is probably average what we've been doing the last 2 seasons, when effectively we've been a mid-table club. It's just a bit frustrating when you think we can push on even a little bit of progress, and we're not really doing that now. It's sort of we sort of gone into that default position that we've been in the last couple of seasons. But it was not the end of the world. It's not to be too knee-jerk about, but it's just being Everton, that, isn't it? We're either the best team in the world or the worst team on the planet. It's never anything in between. It's quite hard to be level-headed.
And then you get criticised. You get criticised and abused for saying that you're not one way or the other.
Yeah, but you just build up in your head, don't you? We all get ahead of ourselves a bit, and then when it doesn't pan out, we start to panic a bit. And I think that's where the sort of the bipolarness of it all comes from. It's either great or it's absolutely shite. It's never in between. When if you take a step back, it's all right. It's just probably not as good as we expected. So before we move on to the last bit, Dave, just one more thing I want to mention about yesterday's game. Like we said, it was a pretty even game. Tottenham did a number on us, knew exactly what they were doing, and were good for the win overall. But one other instance that really blew me head off was that foul on Garner, where Kudus just takes him out. Now, Garner was cute because he ran up and he looked at Kudus and he could see him running over, so he jumped to head the ball. Got it. Kudus wiped him out. I don't even know if it was VAR check. Nothing came up on the screen, but it just wasn't given. And to me, it was 2-0 at the time, obviously. But to me, that was a penalty all day. I think on Match of the Day, they said it was a coming together. Who just runs into him and knocks him flying?
When there's nothing, when there's anything not coming together, I hate that term. It's one of those other ones that you add to that list of, it's just, we shouldn't be paying you to be a pundit if you're coming out with shit like that, coming together. Well, how ambiguous is that? I felt that he charged at him at 1,000,000 times an hour. And, if you're doing that as when the opponent looks like they're going to get the ball before you, that's a foul straight away.
Yeah.
I feel as if they would say, I presume, if you listen to Dermot Gallagher or whoever, would say, well, do you know what? It's fine because he took the ball and then took him out. Then that means he's won the ball and the ball was there to be won, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But when you wipe a player out when you don't have to, which he didn't have to,
no,
And you get players like that, don't you? You just want to act like at the hard man. I think Tarkovsky does that for us.
Yeah.
I'm going to edit it, but I'm going to make sure I edit them as well. It felt like that to me, and he completely clatters him. He's on the floor. Ref didn't even stop the game because it might have been a head injury. Well, it was with a head injury as well. And I was like, what are you doing here, mate? Fuck out, stop the game. Yeah. And then when you're stopping the game, if a player's got a head injury, haven't been ran into by a player, automatically that should be looked at.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. He didn't even turn an eye to it. He's just turning around, almost looking at it, think, hurry up and get up and carry on.
Yeah.
It was it should have been a penalty, yeah. And look, it's a weekend full of that. So those capers happening. But the fact it wasn't even checked, the fact he wasn't even looking at the actual, I say tackle, looking at him, the connection.
Yeah, look, the thing is, though,
he's looking at that and then nothing's happening from it. I'm just stood there thinking, what are we watching here?
Yeah, the thing is, it was really good play from Garner because he was never going to do anything with that ball. It was up in the air on the edge of the box.
Clever. It's clever.
He was never going to do anything with it. He got his head to it first, and he looked at the kudos and he's like, right, he's going to take me out here. Went for it, got it, and nothing. It's just dead frustrating, especially like when we seem to be talking about it every week. But the Man City one last week, I can see why it wasn't, because he was putting his hand down on the floor as he was falling. That one for me was just a blatant penalty. A pivotal moment in the game as well, where I think there was 20 minutes left. We were 2-0 down. We could have got something out of it, but it wasn't to be. Anyway, we'll look ahead in a sec. But before that, while we're on product placement, Rob from Forever Everton sent us this hoodie.
Why are you getting one and I never?
Because I answered the email, didn't I? So
I speak to those lads at Boss, and they're giving you merch.
It came to me, and I can 100% recommend it. I think it's Forever.
I wonder why.
.com. It's good gear.
Yeah.
It is really, really quality gear. Anyway, let's get back onto the topic.
You with your brown envelopes.
I know, yeah. Love a bong, mate. Feels like a big game away at Sunderland now, doesn't it? Well, it is a big game, but I was just looking at the table then, and Fulham have been low-key awful this season. They're on 8 points. So I think, we want to get something from Sunderland, obviously, but I think that Fulham game is potentially going to be a bit of a crunch game, because it's one of them, isn't it? They're on 8. If we're still on 11 by the Fulham game, they beat us, they go level with us, suddenly we're like 17th, 16th, and then you start sweating a little bit. But we'll talk about that next week. Sunderland got a relatively good record there, but games have been sporadic. Played 10 times at the Stadium Light since 2007-08, won 5, drawn 3, lost 2. So it's a good record. They're now joined third in the table after 9 games played, after getting promoted from a playoff final, when many thought Sheffield United were the side more equipped to go up. Sunderland, I think, had a very good summer, and I think their signings have hit the ground running, unlike ours, which aren't getting used, really. So it's when you look at the 2 summers that the clubs have had, they've just sort of gone total opposite ways, haven't they? Sunderland are absolutely flying. They may not keep it up all season, but they're already on 17 points, I think. Like you said, we're only 6 points behind, but even so, they're on 17 points. Another 10, they probably stay up there. But that said, we could have more of a relegation battle this season, because it's not the promoted clubs who are in the shit. It's someone like it's West Ham and Wolves. So there could be a lot more teams involved. Hopefully we won't be, but going to be a tough game, this, isn't it?
Yeah, and trying not to contradict myself here by saying, do you know what, they're going to be a fantastic side this season because they're second or third, when there's only been 9 games. And I've just said the exact same thing about it. It's only been 9 games, so you shouldn't be writing things off. But yeah, watching them against Chelsea there, I like seeing sides that are the unknown, because if you were to tell me now, I know that we have plenty of football buffs all around the place, looking at every single player at every single club. I don't know too much about Southampton's squad, but yeah, sorry,
Sunderland's even.
There you go. Didn't even know they were called Sunderland. They've been fantastic, and I watched them against Chelsea, and the shape of the side that they've got, the confidence in and around everyone, but they're knocking it about like fun. You know, they got some big lads there as well. And I look at them in the side that will come to you and shock you, because you almost, it's probably a lazy form of management where you think, you know what, Sunderland at home, you get them in a cup draw, we'll batter them. You get them at home in the league. Well, we should win that one. They're not that hard. They're very different. They're the kind of opposition that you really have to deep into the homework and get everything arranged before you go there and play them. Playing at home as well. That place always had an atmosphere. As far as I remember, we played them in 2017, I think, when Lukaku was there. Lukaku scored a hat-trick. And that was when Moyes was in charge of them, ironically. So, yeah, I mean, it's a tough one to go to. And normally I'd say I'd be disappointed if we don't go and win that, regardless of where they are in this situation right now, regardless of the fact that their level of form is complete opposite to ours. Should Everton go and beat Sunderland away? Yeah, they should. I don't care how they've done. They should go and beat them. I think you're playing a promoted side who've been really good so far, but every single one of them, every single club, you're looking at the shite over the road there, every club has a blip. And they'll hit one. Can it be Everton? Can that be something that you look at where maybe you're going there as a side? And I think many fans would say and pundits would say, well, Sunderland are probably favourites to win this one. Don't mind Everton going as underdogs at all, because that's what Moyes does well. So, you know, that's where he should be looking at this game thinking, do you know what? It's sort of something I should be winning and get redemption from those who are already doubting me. But it'll be a good game, I think, there, because they do play smart football. They're not, like I said, they're not just Stoke. They've got a lot more decision making going on. Players seem to have a lot of freedom as well. And the manager seems one of those who's just come out of nowhere, and like Areola at Bournemouth, he just come in and started doing a job, and you've looked at him and think, why didn't I know him before?
Yeah. I think one thing that is probably in our advantage going to this game is that they're no longer a surprise package. I think that Chelsea results made everyone sort of sit up and take notice and think, okay, we've got to treat these seriously now. Because, like you say, there is that complacency with promoted teams, isn't it? You think, oh yeah, we'll go there, we'll beat them, we shouldn't be thinking that now at all. It's funny though. I think it was Matt said on the byline last week that Everton never do that. They never go to Chelsea or City or anywhere like that and put a shock result in, like every other club seems to do at some point. We just never do it. It feels like we might need to do that at Sunderland this year, weirdly. But yeah, I think, again, you know, this is now on the manager to make the necessary changes to win this game or get something from this game at least, because he's got the squad at his disposal to do it. He just needs to make sure he does it for me. So before we finish, we do this every week. We do this every week and nothing ever changes. But what changes would you like to see for next week?
Well, I mean, the one thing you've got on side here is, like us as fans, I can't help but feel that, you know, a manager looks at it and think Everton aren't going to make any changes here. We've seen Everton do the same thing for 9 games on the spin. Why would they do anything different against us? With that in mind, if you're David Moyes, you'd think that is sort of, it's a counterproductive way to work this, isn't it? By actually changing things and looking at something different. Do not play Barry or Beto. If someone said to him, those 2 lads are out injured, what would you do? And that's the approach I go with this. If them 2 are out, what would you go and do?
Yeah, similar before, hasn't he, as well?
Well, similar to the days when we were putting bloody Steve Watson up front, you know. Then people are genuinely talking about putting, I know it's become a little bit of an ongoing joke, putting Keane up front. Well, you've got a centre-back who plays right-back that you could put back to centre-back. You've got a midfielder who's not good enough in midfield in Ghana. You can put him to right-back, and you can move the central defender that you've got free up front and don't put any of the other 2 on. You can go and do that. He's not in a million years going to do that. If you put a gun to his head, he would still not do that, David Moyes. So what we want to see is a million miles away of what we're going to see. But I would like to see Alcaraz start. I would like to even play 3 of them there, you know, not a 4-3-3 conventionally, but 3 of them who act like say 3 10s or, you know, 2 10s and a 9, whichever way you want to mathematically structure this. But if you're keeping Grealish on, do something else with him. It's getting a little bit too, well, it is predictable of where he's going to play. And he can go anywhere because he's by a million miles. I keep saying million miles. He's much better than everybody else right now. And Alcaraz has not been given a fair amount of games by far. Start those three. I'd start Alcaraz, probably the focal point of the three of them, and kick the ball on the floor. We've been good at that. That's what we have got better at. It's not route one. Even though we've got Beto, don't even know his name anymore. Beto running around, not knowing what he's doing. We're still not often playing long balls to him. I noticed that last night where Keane did not look for his usual 60-yard pass, not all of the time. There wasn't Pickford trying to pick him out. They were trying to play out from the back. And that, to me, would indicate that you can make those changes. You have got good enough players to be able to go and do that. Midfield area, like I say there, give Roll a go. I think, again, somebody else, you're going to get a player in there that you're probably going to, you want to go and sign him if everything works out right. Why is he not playing? Why is he not getting a start in there? Why is James Garner getting in there ahead of him? I mean, Matt, perfect time to promote it, isn't it? Get Matt Jones's thoughts on byline about James Garner. And let them know what you think of it. So yeah, I mean, I'd change him there. I'd put him into right back. O'Brien to revert to the bench. Well, you're going to have to say because he's not going to change from Tarkovsky and Keane, is he? He's not going to change from Mikalenko at left back. Let's be honest about that. So you've got three of the back four there.
That's an issue in itself, isn't it? Like Mikalenko's just he's not playing well, but he's not going anywhere.
Well, where's the other fella? Is he still fishing? What's going on there?
We signed this left back for 9 million. Like,
has anyone seen him?
Everton? No.
Someone said to me he looked absolutely woeful in like an under-23 game or something.
Yeah, when we played Bolton, apparently him, McNeil and Patterson were dreadful in that. But
the motivation for those three lads is gone, hasn't it? It's just like turn up, go to work, get me money, and go home. Do you know what I mean? It's like what we all do with our work and jobs. It's like I can't wait for it to finish. Just give me my pay. Just give me my pay package and leave me alone.
Yeah, the thing is though, it's like with McNeil, isn't it? We'll finish in a sec, but it's drop off the season's been mental, been really bad, and it's sort of like last couple of seasons, if you needed a goal, he has often come up with an assist or the goal, and he just doesn't look anywhere near that now. And it's like, what is going on with that squad? Have people fallen out? Has he just been like binned and thrown to one side? So he's like, oh, sod this, I'm going to get off in January, because that's not a good use of the squad either, is it? When a player's been that key the last couple of seasons to just completely bin him off, it just feels, I don't like the lack of trust that appears to be knocking about. That's based on nothing but what I've seen on the pitch with the players passing. And you know yourself, when you play football, you do get little clicks in teams. I'm not saying that's the case, but there's definitely a case that players don't trust other players, and you can't have that in your team.
No, and that's it. That's right in the centre of it all, there, Les. And then by and large, if you have to do something different if things don't work, and how many times have we said that over the years, regardless of Everton manager, do something different. Otherwise, like I said earlier, you'll find you out, or you'll be playing against a better side that will rip you apart. I.e., what Spurs did. They nullified everything we had. Apart from Ndiaye, who's that good that he could predict what he was going to do, but not stop it. That's why he's such a good player. Everybody else, Grealish included, just didn't have that in their game. So then you turn to your manager and say, right, what are we doing, boss? And his answer wasn't there. And it needs to be here, but he can start by changing what he starts with in the game rather than thinking, oh, do you know what? Maybe I will make a substitute after 75 minutes when we're 2-0 down.
Yeah. Just try and get the best out of the squad, because it's not a bad squad. There's more to it than we're getting shown, I think.
Easily, yeah.
That's it for this week's Blue Monday. Then nice one, Dave. Another. I'm getting fed up with these sad Blue Mondays. It's been 2 on the bounce now, hasn't it? Feels like we haven't won forever. But there we go.
Next week should be the same because we won't want to play by then.
Yeah, of course. God, what we're going to talk about next week, we'll think of something. Just do an extended preview of the Sunderland game. I don't know. Maybe something will happen this week that we can talk about. We'll suss it out then. Nice one, Dave. Thanks for everyone for listening and or watching. That's been Blue Monday. We've got all the usual stuff coming up this week. Byline, weekly. Old New Borrowed Blue with Jimmy Morville is going on YouTube and the main feed this week. Got a deep dive
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the second part of Ted Sagar's mini series. Yeah. So
yeah, and then it's
yeah.
back to mailbag, and then all hands on deck for Sunderland away. That's it for this week, though. Coffees.